Namaste. This is Michelle Skaletski-Boyd, and for those of you who are just getting to know me, I'm a clinically certified hypnotherapist. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I'm an intuitive medium. I climbed the corporate ladder for almost 20 years. And then after I did that and worked my way up into the business world, including working for a Fortune 500 company, I discovered that my ladder was really leaning against the wrong wall. My soul really felt lost and disconnected, and I was really wondering where was I to go next. And so I became a hypnotherapist, and I started working with the idea that I was going to be working with doctors and dentists, that I was going to be giving anesthesia to people through train of thought instead of for people that were allergic. And that didn't happen. What happened is when somebody was actually under hypnosis, my mediumship gifts kicked in, and they kicked in hard. And I had this awakening, and I knew that this is what I was supposed to do. And a couple of years later, I formed my practice originally in 2006. And in 2009, it became official that I was now doing this as an intuitive medium. And a couple of years later, I was discovered by Bob Olson, who, for those of you who don't know, owns Afterlife TV, and he's also owns Best Psychic Mediums. And he put me on his Best Psychic Mediums list. And I could still be there today, but after 4 years of intense client sessions, I chose to step down so that I could work on being a mom, which is a lot of work as well. Right now, a lot of us need our intuition reset. And some of you, you're brand new to opening your intuition. You might go to psychics and mediums, but actually relying on your own might be new for you. And so that's what you're in the right place. Okay, so I'd like just to start by having everybody take some nice deep breaths. It's always good. Breath is good. Really also, because we're using our own intuition today, I'd like to tell you that this is my truth. Go with your own. It's very important to me that we all follow our own free will and our own free choice, and we go with what feels good. Feel free to join the inner circle energetically if you feel called, and if you aren't sure if you want to be here, or aren't sure if you can give your full attention because you have other things going on, then just put yourself in the outer circle energetically. I'm all good with either way. So as always, stay aligned with what feels good to you. So if I use the word God as an example, and that doesn't align with you, you prefer infinite intelligence or creator or something like that, I invite you to just replace the word whenever you hear it with something that does resonate with you. Same goes if I make a suggestion, like everybody take a deep breath, and you're like, I just don't feel like breathing. That's fine. That's up to you. Okay. So what I'd like for you to do is, when the time is right, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and to be more present with yourself. For now, just to get a better feel for my energy and where we're going, I'm going to speak just for a few minutes to your left brain. So I'm going to start out very briefly by sharing a bit about my background, just in terms of how it can benefit you today. So after working with clients from all around the globe and actually creating several courses online and having quite a big following, enough where I became a 3 times best-selling author, what I discovered is that there are some tips for enhancing your intuition, and it definitely can be beneficial if you know some of these shortcuts. So I cannot obviously get to all of that today. Normally it takes 9 months. It was a 9-month course that I had offered called Be Your Own Medium. And for many of you, depending on where you're at, you're really just wanting to clear yourself enough to be able to tune in. And that's what the intention of this talk is. So those of you who know me or you worked with me before, I always recommend that you quietly take a moment and you start to connect with your spiritual team. You ask your spiritual team for some guidance and for some assistance. So if it feels good to you, I'd like for you just to do that. Just take a moment, and I shall do the same. Very briefly, I'm just going to go through the clairs. All of you, I'm sure, already heard of them, but I'm just going to give you my perception of each, which sometimes can be helpful just to hear it and learn it in a different way. So people who trust their intuition are often using clairs, and clair is a French term, which means clear. So clairvoyancy, for example, is the ability to see. Now, being in this field, I've had the opportunity to be side by side with people like James Van Praagh, and there are people that are wonderful when it comes to clairvoyancy, all the way down to they can, describe eye color and almost count the eyelashes. They're so good at it. And this is, people sometimes get it in their mind, they see it, but there are other people who spirit will actually appear to them as though they're in the room and they can kind of see through the energy. It can sometimes play out like a movie screen or be a flash of recognition. All of us have this, by the way. There's just some that are more prominent than others. And so for me, when I first began, my primary was clairaudiency, which we'll get to in a moment. And my clairvoyancy did not open until later. And people were talking about this movie and how it started to play out. And until I became a Reiki master teacher, it didn't actually, I didn't have that gift. But all of a sudden, when the movie started playing, it was like, oh my goodness, this is like 3D and dimensional. So yes, as you master one, another one shows up. It's kind of like a video game in a way, where you do one level and then another one shows up and you can keep mastering each. So clairvoyancy is really when you sometimes close your eyes and maybe another world appears. When you're doing creative work, you can get clear images in your head of it at first. This is clairvoyancy. If you dream in color or vivid images, it's the same thing. If you can easily solve problems because you're a visual person and you can visualize next steps, if you see lights or auras around people, plants, or animals, if you see things moving out of the corner of your eye. Clairaudience is the ability to hear your higher self. When you can connect to spirit and you feel like you have all these voices in your head, you do feel like you're going a little bit insane. It's similar to when you're recalling somebody's voice in your head. It's similar to that, but it has its own vibration, its own personality. It's like when you get a song stuck in your head and it's on a different channel. That's how it is. It's a different way of receiving. And so it is the ability to tune in to extrasensory input in terms of auditory. Sometimes you can actually hear music playing in your head and it might be coming from a different realm. You could hear voices upon waking or going to sleep. You could wake up in the morning with a song in your head or a certain word in your head and you're supposed to look it up. There's some type of message. This is all clairaudience. You could have lying in bed at night and all of a sudden there's sounds that start to come from your pillow. I've had clients who would tell me that they'd be laying in bed and all of a sudden when they're deep, almost in sleep, it sounded like their pillow was speaking to them. These are all different things. Now, this is most of the clairaudience, at least with the clients that I worked with, and it's possible because I'm attracting people like me. Most of the people that were clairaudient, they received the information as though it was like a thought in your head. It was an internal sound. I have had a couple clients where they did receive clairaudient messages outside of themselves. I had one man who was in a very busy traffic and he was just about ready to merge onto traffic. And he was told very loudly, as though there was somebody sitting next to him in the passenger seat, he heard "stop." And he did not listen and he got hit. Clairsentience, this is really more of the emotional input, physical feelings, gut feelings. You go into a room and you can feel that somebody had been arguing or fighting. You can sense that there's something strange going on. You get atmospheric changes, tingling sensations in your body for no apparent reason. Feel emotions of other people. This can all be part of it. Many people believe that empath energy, that means that you are clairsentient. If you take some of my private classes, you'd learn that there's a whole degree of empaths, but yes, the most popular empaths are clairsentient. They really rely on feelings as their primary source for decisions. Claircognizance is I know because I know, but I can't explain how I know. So having been on Bob Olson's list, who was a former private investigator, he attracted a lot of police officers. And so I had a lot of people in the military and police officers and the government officials who were my clients. And they had this claircognizance. It was informations, ideas, concepts, thoughts just comes to you. My dad is pretty good at this, and the fact that you give him a present, you can wrap it up with bricks in it, and he just knows what's inside. It's just, I know because I know. I'm not getting a picture or a sound or a feeling. I just know, and it's hard to explain. This one is probably the one that causes us to doubt ourselves the most, because we don't have any sensory proof. There's no sound, no image, no feeling. It is just such a gut feeling. If you're going to overthink yourself or stay in doubt, this is usually the reason why. People in this category tend to be in their head a lot. They're often analytical. People that are really deep thinkers, critical thinkers, good at understanding abstract concepts, solving problems. If you get a lot of great ideas that just pop into your head, you're really good at solving problems. You size up people and just know whether or not they're trustworthy. I had one client ask me, how do I know the difference between intuition and a thought? And it's simple, it's claircognizance. The information just pops in almost always. And I'll just also mention that there's a new term that's going on. It's called synesthesia, synesthesia. And this is the gift where people can actually hear colors. They can smell sounds. They can tap into completely different realms of frequencies. And so what I'll say on that is, no matter how you access your intuition, I'd like for you to trust it and know that it can be relied upon, so long as you're open to receive. The story Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So let's take the word trust and imagine that it falls into several scenarios. And to simplify it, we're going to call it too hot, too cold, and just right. So there are those of us who can be too trusting, too naive. And there's those of us who can be not trusting enough, pretty cynical, pretty closed off. And then there's those of us who are trusting just enough to keep ourselves in a balanced state and in flow and feeling safe. So what I'm talking about, of course, tonight is trusting your intuition. And this requires confidence, it requires practice and patience, and it requires an effective conscious awareness of your own inner guidance. So when I was little, I was super open, and I imagine most of you were super open to energies, super trusting, because I was so open. I was put into very unhealthy, unsafe situations where I attracted some very ugly energies. And this can happen, especially when you have intuitive and mediumship abilities. You are already attracting so many different energies to begin with. And because you are so aware of people's true essence and you can see their goodness, you become naive and can, as a result, get hurt. As a teenager, I completely closed off. I went into the opposite direction. I distrusted a lot. I saw a lot of the world as being dangerous and unsafe. I was very scared of most people. I felt like they were uncaring. They were out to get me. You couldn't count on them. They were going to hurt you in some way. In fact, this way of being became my reality for quite a long time. I was pretty negative for a long time. My intuition was stifled. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the talk, it wasn't until in my mid-30s, all of a sudden, I had been laid off from a corporate job, and I could feel my soul stirring. It was not letting me rest. And it definitely was doing everything it could to get my attention. And at one point, it got my attention long enough that I moved from cynic to skeptic. Closed skeptic might be a different way of saying cynical, but open skeptic is, I'm going to open just enough to listen to what you have to say, but I'm going to do everything I can to prove you wrong. And so as long as you're an open skeptic, you at least have room for connecting to your trust. So when you're cynical, you've lost total trust, you've lost faith, and even hope feels hopeless. When you're skeptical and you're an open skeptic, it means that you are open, but you have reservations. And so you're not easily convinced. You still will show doubt. And you know what? After being hurt, it's okay. It's okay that you still show doubt. In fact, what I've learned over the years is that when you do doubt, being skeptical and remaining open is a really good first step, because you've been hurt. And unlike the cynic, you have hope that there is still goodness in the world, but you're going to poke holes in everything for a while, and that's okay. So the question is when you're in that spot, how do you start to trust your intuition after you realize you've kind of gone down some rabbit holes and started poking holes in a lot of stuff? What I'll share first is that Dr. George Pratt, who's a clinical psychologist out of La Jolla, California, specializes in emotional healing. He says that the subconscious mind is 100 times more powerful than the conscious mind. And to put it another way, the conscious mind fires off 20 to 40 neurons per second, where the subconscious mind fires off 20 to 40 million neurons per second. So imagine the difference. So when something gets programmed into the subconscious, it stays with us like a low hum that we're not even consciously aware of. So when we've been programmed to distrust ourselves again and again and again, because of worldly events, our own thoughts, etc., consider each of those as micro traumas, and they add up and they then get us stuck in the subconscious as subtle energies. The brain is only capable of focusing so much on one thing at a time. So when you experience a doubt, imagine there's like this curtain, this wall of uncertainty that immediately goes up, and with good intention, right? Remember, it is designed to protect us. It is designed to block out the pain so that we don't go through it again, and to keep us safe. Unfortunately, it can show up in the form of self-sabotage. And so it can prevent us from good feelings from coming in at all, even when its intentions are good. So energy is the source of all dimensional levels, including the level that I just spoke of, this level of doubt. It's an energy. Every level houses a certain consciousness. So when you're daydreaming, your thoughts are living bursts of energy, and they vibrate at different levels compared to the physical body, let's say. Your thoughts exist at a different dimension, even though you're aware of both your body and your daydream simultaneously. So each resonates at a different frequency. The transmission of a radio is different from a TV, as an example, and varies from radar, sonar, or electric violet frequencies. And on a daily basis, we witness and experience them in the here and the now, which is why we can also open to the possibility that our thoughts, as in this case, doubt, has its own frequency. So knowing this, the quickest way to go from distrust back to trust is to change your frequency. Now that seems really obvious, right? But how? Well, there's no really one answer. There's a lot of ways to do it. One way is to literally move energy, Qigong, yoga, Pilates, dance. You're literally moving the energy. When intuition is closed off, it's closed off or inaccurate or twisted or turned around in some way, because it's similar to when we stand or sit with weight unevenly distributed. So all of us have been in the situation where we're tipping our head to one side, and before we know it, our shoulder's starting to hurt, right? Or we're standing on just one foot, and or more weight on one foot, and all of a sudden we're finding out that there's something going on with our hip. And so distrust is distributing our energy in an imbalanced way. So the heart is said to be the birthplace of divine love, of eternal peace, of spiritual bliss. So I'll take you soon through a guided meditation so that you can experience yourself again, using a technique that directly accesses your higher self from within. But I want to talk briefly about higher self. What is it? It's a blissful, super conscious, higher mind part of ourselves that is the expression of spiritual wisdom, creative power, divinity, eternal love. It's our awakening to our inner teacher. Our inner teacher is our higher self. Christians call it the Holy Spirit, Christ consciousness. Buddhas refer to it as Buddha, the awakened one. And there are so many more interpretations. Higher self is the direct personal realization and embodiment of the deepest spiritual aspect of ourselves, our eternal self. And it is conscious, and it is a conscious union with the Creator, with God's source, with all of life. The awakened part of ourself has no form, no boundaries. It's beyond the ego. It's beyond the creative center of imagination. When we turn consciousness to move from the observer to the observed, we can then experience the even more expansive energy of all that ever is and ever was, higher self. Now, some have referred to there being different layers. Some say oversoul now. And again, use your own terms, but it's the I am. It's the authentic self, the full potential self, the divine self, the fully realized self, the higher mind, the cosmic consciousness, the universal soul. The particular name is not as important as the energies itself. The energies and the qualities that are expressed are for the state of the higher self consciousness, and it may be difficult to understand in words, for it exists within the spiritual consciousness in a higher frequency. So if it feels good, I'd like for you to begin to make yourself comfortable. And I'd like for you just to notice your feet. Just make contact against the floor and notice whatever you're sitting on. Could be a chair, could be the floor. Just notice how your bottom and your lower back and your upper back, how they conform. Just be aware of the body itself. And then when you're ready, I'd like for you to open your eyes and find a spot on your hand. And I want you to focus all of your attention on that spot. It might be a little wrinkle or a fingernail. Just choose something that feels good, something that will allow you to relax a little deeper. So you can focus all of your attention on it, letting yourself naturally focus on that spot, concentrating on it with all of your attention. And as you do, you're still aware of the body, of your feet, of how your bottom and your back conforms to whatever it is you're sitting on. And as you allow all of your body to become more and more relaxed, more and more comfortable, now in a little time, I'm not exactly sure when, but soon your eyes will become so relaxed and so comfortable that as you're focusing on that spot on your hand, your eyes, if they're not already closed, will want to close down. And you're going to pick the time that's right for you. And when that happens, you'll feel even more relaxed, even more comfortable, even more trusting. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. We only go as far as we trust ourselves to go. So more and more comfortable, more and more relaxed. Just notice that relaxation from the top of your head, flowing down your face. Feel it go down the spine, into the shoulders. Feel it in your lungs with the inhale and exhale. Feel it in the hips and in the legs. More and more relaxed all the way down the legs, through the knees, into the feet, into the tips of the toes. Be aware of the shoulders and the arms. Notice the hands. And as those energies move and your awareness moves, notice the constancy, the consistency of the breath. Move your attention into the left foot. Allow your attention to rest there for a moment. Feel into your left baby toe. Maybe go into the next toe. Work your way through the toes. Notice the arch of your foot and your left ankle. Just say hello for a moment. Let's do the same on the right side, starting with the little toe. At your own rhythm, your own pace. Good. Now, energetically, one of the ways that I like to reset my intuition is to use the figure eight. When our DNA, our RNA, our thoughts, our emotions, our energies are out of balance, a lot of stress can occur when we feel divided. And in an effort to protect ourselves, we can split off. Shamanic energies have to do soul retrievals when we split off. Our energy goes in different directions. And when that happens too many times, we become homolateral. My dear friend Donna Eden talks about energy, and she teaches energy medicine. Homolateral means that we are divided in our energies like railroad tracks, and we stay scattered and stuck, unable to come back home to ourselves. So the easiest way that I've found to return to wholeness and to reset energies, to relieve the stress and to move ourselves back into a patterning that is a nice, open, clear trust, is to move our breath in a figure eight way. What you do is you begin by giving your left brain, your logical brain, a map. And then you allow your right brain, your beautiful, beautiful creative self, to begin to move in a way that feels good to you. So I'll begin by directing you again to your right foot. I'd like for you to focus your energies on the bottom of your right foot and imagine that as you're inhaling, you're pulling energy from the right foot into the left knee. As you exhale, the energy moves from the left knee to the right hip. Inhale again from the right hip to the left shoulder. Exhale and allow it to move from the left shoulder into the top of the head or the third eye. Good, and just pause there for a moment. Exhale whenever you're ready. And as you exhale, you're going to go from the third eye down to the right shoulder. Inhale from the right shoulder over to the left hip. Allow the breath to continue to move in its own way, its own rhythm from the left hip down to the right knee to the left foot. We're going to repeat this pattern again as you allow the energies to circulate from left foot to right foot. And instead of focusing the energies now on the front of you, allow them to move to the back of you. Right foot, left knee, right hip, left shoulder, top of head, third eye. Good. Very good, everyone. Now, for some of you, the breath wants to move on its own already. It's very difficult to stay in those spots. And for others of you, you want to be able to not necessarily go in any order. So allow now yourself to use the breath, to allow the breath to guide you in these beautiful figure eights up and down the body in any way that it wishes, in you and through you in all ways. And as that occurs, as you're doing that, notice, are you in your head watching the experience, directing the experience as though you're in a tower in your head? Or can you allow yourself to be pulled like a thread with the breath and sail with the breath like a kite tail and move with the breath down, down, down the body, into the toes again, into the feet, spiraling all the way back up over the top of your head now. Down, down, your own rhythm, your own pace. Tracing these figure eight energies helps the energy cross over from the left hemisphere of the brain to the right side of the body, from the right hemisphere to the left side of the body. It also helps energies cross over every part of the body through the organs and through the cells. Now, some of you, if it feels good, you can even start moving your hands in a figure eight, moving them around your head, around your body. Imagine someone coming behind you, your higher self. Imagine higher self energy directing around your body, through the back, just resetting you into these higher frequencies of trust. And just become aware, are you in your head or are you with the breath? As you become one with the breath and you trust the breath to lead, you're now in self-trust. When you go back to the tower of your head and try it for a minute, it's a very different experience. That's that open skepticism versus fully being in trust, being one with the breath, allowing the breath to lead you and guide you as you journey with it. And the moment that you check yourself to see if you're right or if you're precise or exact, notice how you go back into your head and you pop back in for just a second. And it's amazing how we can feel the difference when we're in flow and when we're a little bit out of flow. Good. I'm just slowly disconnecting my energy from all of you. Just continue to maintain it on your own in the same way that a beautiful parent allows the child when they're learning to ride a bike just to sail. Good. The moment you're going to hear me counting backwards from 10 to 1. And as I do, just please give yourself permission to send lots of gratitude to higher self. 10, 9, 8. Slowly becoming aware of your physical body again. 7, 6, and 5. If it feels good, rotating your wrists and your ankles. 4, 3, and 2. Just moving just a little bit more. And 1, eyes awake, feeling great.